Okay, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about axial and equatorial and how to draw a boat or chair, I guess just a chair conformation. So a lot of times when we look at cyclohexane, we're not drawing it as just a flat ring, although I know that's tempting, but actually because of ring strain and torsional strain, which means because this angle is less than the carbon-carbon bond wants to be, and because these are fighting with each other, it's better for them to be slightly offset, to be, see, they're kind of, if you would have it in a Newman projection, these are staggered. But if it was all equal wedges and dashes in this flat cyclohexane ring, all of your hydrogens then would be eclipsed. So that's why you can see they're eclipsed right there. So that's why cyclohexane likes to hang out in the chair conformation where it's slightly bent. And some key features of the chair conformation is all the things that were formerly just drawn as wedges. So like everything coming towards you, you notice those are all purple and they still are coming towards you. There's 3 coming straight at you in the axial position and 3 in the equatorial position. So that means like around the equator. And they're still slightly pointing up. You'll see they're pointing slightly up while the gray ones are pointing slightly down. So they're all still pointing towards you, but they're alternating axial, equatorial, axial, equatorial. And then the grays that were formerly would have just been dashes, they're pointing away from you. They're still pointing away from you. There's 3 pointing straight down, and then there's 3 in the equator, and they're still kind of pointed down compared to the purple. So if we're going to draw this, we call it the chair because it's almost like we draw it at this angle where you can see the top and all 4 carbons and then this bottom. I think it looks more like a lounge chair, like you'd sit in at the pool. Like here's where your head goes and then you're laying out and your feet kind of go down at the bottom. But whatever makes the most sense to you. This is chair position. And the way I draw my chair is I draw over and a line up. And then as if I was drawing a square, I draw the bottom part of the square and then just the line at an angle, and then you can just connect those. Some people might be snobby about their boat or their chair conformation. I think that this is just fine. And now I'm going to draw all the axial positions, and I'm going to alternate the purple and the gray. I'm going to make red represent purple and gray represent black. So let's start right here. The purple is pointing straight up, and we'll do the equatorial one next, but then for the gray, it's pointing straight down. And then the next purple is pointing straight up, that's axial. And the next axial is gray, and it's pointing straight down. And the next purple that's axial is pointing straight up. And the next gray that's axial is pointing straight down. And now we're back at our starting position. So these matter when you're drawing boat and chair. This is kind of the accepted conformation where 3 are drawn. 3 of your hydrogens or whatever substituents you have are drawing pointing straight up, and the alternating 3 are drawn pointing straight down. So I always start at this top corner and just make my axial up and then down, up, down, up, down. Now if I'm drawing equatorial, sorry, those don't look perfect, but if you have an axial that's pointing straight up that's purple, you're going to have an equatorial gray that's pointed down. And then if you have an equatorial gray that's pointed down like this, then your equatorial purple will be pointed slightly up. Again, your gray pointed slightly down, then your purple pointed slightly up, then your gray pointed slightly down, then your purple pointed slightly up. So these are the accepted positions for axial and equatorial. So all these are axial, all these are equatorial. So whenever I'm drawing my final chair conformation, there we go. I'll start with all my red/purples first. I start up here and I say axial, equatorial, axial. Oh, that should be pointing straight up. Messed it up. I drew it right over there, but I didn't. Axial, equatorial, axial, equatorial. So all these are pointing up. Ignore that one. That was a mistake. And then equatorial. So equatorial, axial pointing down, equatorial, ignore this. Axial pointing down, equatorial, axial pointing down. So these are your positions for your boat and chair conformation. This is what you're or your chair conformation, sorry. This is what you're looking for whenever you're drawing it. And so when I first started on my exams, I would draw all of them out, just starting right here. And whatever makes more sense to you to be able to do that, and make sure you get, I would always go back and make sure I have axial pointing down, up, just to make sure, and then that my equatorials were all right. And then if I still wasn't sure, that I communicated to my instructor, I would put axial, equatorial. So they knew that I knew that some were axial and some were equatorial. And just with practice, you'll get better at this, but this way at least you know how to draw a chair conformation of cyclohexane and where to put your axial and equatorial. Hope that was helpful.